Mrs. Ralston, try and think.
I can't think. My head's numb.
Mrs. Boyle had only just died when you got to her. You came from the kitchen. Are you sure you didn't hear or see anyone when you came through the hall?
No, I don't think so. I was coming through the hall and I heard the radio blaring, but I couldn't very well hear anything else but that, could I?
That was clearly the murderer's idea, or murderess.
How could I hear anything else?
You might have done. If the murderer had left the hall that way, he might have heard you coming from the kitchen. He might have slipped up the back stairs or into the dining room.
I'm not sure. I heard a door creaking shut as I came out of the hall.
Which door?
I don't know.
Think, Mrs. Ralston, try and think. Upstairs, downstairs, close at hand, right, left?
I don't know, I tell you, I'm not even sure I heard anything.
Can't you stop bullying her? Can't you see she's all in?
We're investigating a murder, Mr. Ralston. Up until now, nobody has taken this thing seriously. Mrs. Boyle did. She held out on me with information. You all held out on me. Well, Mrs. Boyle is dead. Unless we get to the bottom of this and quickly mind there may be another death.
Another nonsense. Why?
Because there were 3 little blind mice.
A death for each of them, but there would have to be some connection. I mean, another connection with the Longridge farm business.
Yes, there would have to be that.
But why another death here?
Because there were only 2 addresses in the notebook we found. Now, at 24 Cobble Street, there was only 1 possible victim. She's dead. But here at Monksville Manor, there is a wider field.
Nonsense. Surely it would be a most unlikely coincidence that there should be 2 people brought here by chance, both with the share in the Longridge farm case.
Given certain circumstances, it wouldn't be so much of a coincidence. Think it out, Miss Casewell. Now, I want to get down quite clearly where everyone was when Mrs. Boyle was killed. I already have Mrs. Ralston's statement. You were in the kitchen preparing vegetables. You came out of the kitchen, along the passage, through the swing doors, into the hall, and in here. The radio was blaring and the light was switched off and the hall was dark. You switched the light on, saw Mrs. Boyle, and screamed.
Yes, I screamed and screamed, and at last people came.
Yes, as you say, people came. A lot of people from different directions, all arriving more or less at once. Now, when I got out of the window to check the telephone wire, you, Mr. Ralston, went up to the room you and Mrs. Ralston occupied to check the extension telephone. Where were you when Mrs. Ralston screamed?
I was still up in our bedroom. The extension telephone was dead too. I looked out the window to see if I could see any sign of the wires being cut there, but I couldn't. Just as I closed the window again, I heard Molly scream, and I rushed down.
Those simple actions took you rather a long time, didn't they, Mr. Ralston?
I don't think so.
I should say you definitely took your time over them.
I was thinking about something.
Very well. Now, Mr. Wren, I'll have your account of where you were.
I've been in the kitchen seeing if there was anything I could do to help Miss Ralston. I adore cooking. After that, I went upstairs to my room.
Why?
Well, it's quite a natural thing to go to one's room, don't you think? I mean, one does want to be alone sometimes.
You went to your room because you wanted to be alone.
And I wanted to brush my hair and tidy up a bit.
You wanted to brush your hair.
Well, anyway, that's where I was.
And you came down?
Yes.
Curious that you and Mr. Ralston didn't meet on the stairs.
I went up to my room by the back stairs. They're near to my room.
Did you go to your room by the back stairs or did you come through here?
I went up by the back stairs as well.
I see. Now, Mr. Paravicini.
I have told you. I was in the drawing room, playing piano. Over there, Inspector.
I'm not an inspector, just a sergeant. Mr. Paravicini, did anyone hear you playing the piano?
I should not think so. I was playing very softly, with one finger, so...
You were playing 3 Blind Mice.
Is that so?
Yes. It's a very catchy little tune. It is, how shall I say, a haunting little tune.
I think it's horrible.
And yet, it runs in people's heads. Someone was whistling it too.
Whistling it? Where?
I do not know. Perhaps on the stairs. Perhaps even upstairs. In the bedroom.
Who was whistling 3 Blind Mice? Are you making this up, Mr. Paravicini?
No, Inspector. I beg your pardon. Sergeant. I would not do a thing like that.
Very well. You were playing the piano.
With one finger, so. And then I hear the radio. Someone is shouting on it. Offended my ears. And then, suddenly, I hear Mrs. Ralston scream.
Mr. Ralston upstairs. Mr. Wren upstairs. Mr. Paravicini in the drawing room. Miss Casewell.
I was writing letters in the library.
Could you hear what was going on in here?
No, I didn't hear anything until Mrs. Ralston screamed.
And what did you do then?
I came in here.
At once?
I think so.
You say you were writing letters when you heard Mrs. Ralston scream.
Yes.
You got it from the writing table heard and then you came through here.
Yes.
And yet, there doesn't seem to be any unfinished letter on the writing desk in the library.
I brought it with me.
Dearest Jessie, a friend of yours or a relation?
None of your business.
Perhaps not. You know, Miss Casewell, if I were to hear someone screaming bloody murder when I was writing a letter, I don't believe I would take the time to pick up my unfinished letter, fold it, and put it in my handbag before going to see what was the matter.
You wouldn't? How interesting.
Now, Major Metcalf, what about you? You say you were in the cellar. Why?
Looking around, just looking around. Open up the cupboard place, underneath the stairs near the kitchen. A lot of junk and sports tackle. Saw another door. Opened it and saw some stairs. Got curious and I went down. Nice cellars you've got.
Why do you like them?
Not at all. Crypt of an old monastery, I should say. Probably why they call this place Monkswell.
We're not engaged in an antiquarian research, Major Metcalf. We're investigating a murder. Mrs. Ralston says that she heard a door shut with a faint creak. That particular door shuts with a creak. It could be, you know, that after killing Mrs. Boyle, the murderer heard Mrs. Ralston coming from the kitchen and slipped into the cupboard, pulling the door in after him.
A lot of things could be.
There would be fingerprints in the inside of the cupboard.
Mine are there alright. But most criminals are careful to wear gloves, aren't they?
It's usual, but all criminals slip up sooner or later.
I wonder, Sergeant. That is really true.
Look here, aren't we wasting our time? There's only one person who could have done it.
Please, Mr. Ralston, I'm in charge of this investigation.
Oh, very well.
Mr. Ralston, thank you. We've got to establish opportunity, you know, as well as motive. And let me tell you this, you all had opportunity. There are 2 staircases. Anyone could go up by one and come down by the other. Anyone could go down the stairs to the door near the kitchen and come up by a flight of steps that leads up to the foot of the stairs over there. The vital fact was that every one of you was alone at the time the murder was committed.
But look here, Sergeant. You speak as though we were all under suspicion. That's absurd.
In a murder case, everyone is under suspicion.
But you know pretty well who killed that woman on Culver Street. You think it was the eldest of those 3 children at the farm, a mentally abnormal young man who is now 23 years of age. Well, damn it all, there's only one person who fits the bill.
It's not true, it's not true. You're all against me. Everyone's always been against me. You're going to frame me for a murder. It's persecution, that's what it is. It's persecution!
Steady, laddie, steady.
It's all right, Chris. Nobody's against you. Tell him it's all right. Tell him you're not going to arrest him.
I'm not going to arrest anyone.
Promise me you're not going to arrest him.
I'm not going to. We've got to have evidence. We haven't had any evidence yet.
I think you're crazy, Molly. And you too. There's just one person who fits the bill, and if only as a safety measure, he ought to be put under arrest. It's only fair to the rest of us.
Wait, Jazz. Wait. Sergeant, can I speak to you a minute?
Certainly, Mrs. Ralston. Will the rest of you go into the dining room, please?
I'm staying.
No, Jazz. You too, please.
I'm staying. I don't know what's come over you, Molly.
Please.
Yes, Mrs. Ralston, what was it you wanted to say to me?
You think that this crazy killer must be the eldest of the 3 boys from the farm. But you don't really know that, do you?
We actually don't know a thing. All we've got so far is the woman who joined with her husband in ill-treating and starving those children has been killed, and the woman magistrate responsible for putting them there has been killed. The telephone wire that links me with the police headquarters has been cut.
You don't even know that. It could have just been the snow.
No, Mrs. Ralston, the line was deliberately cut. It was cut just outside by the front door. I found the place.
I see.
Sit down, Mrs. Ralston.
But even so, you don't know.
I'm going by probability. It all points one way. Mental instability, childish mentality, desertion from the army, and the psychiatrist's report.
Yes, I know, and so it all seems to point to Christopher. But I don't believe it is Christopher. There must be other possibilities.
Such as?
Well, haven't the children any relations at all?
The mother was a drunk. She died soon after the children were taken away from her.
What about the father?
He was an army sergeant, serving abroad. If he's alive, he's probably discharged from the army by now.
You don't know where he is now?
The tracing may take some time, but I can assure you, Mrs. Ralston, the police take every eventuality into account.
But if you don't know where he is at this very moment, and if the son was unstable, the father may have been unstable as well.
It's a possibility.
If he came home, after being a prisoner with the Japs perhaps, and having suffered terribly, if he came home and found his wife dead, and that his children had gone through some terrible experience and one of them had died through it, he might have gone off his head a bit and wanted revenge.
That's only surmise.
But it's possible.
Oh yes, Mrs. Ralston, it's quite possible.
So the murderer may be middle-aged, or even old. Major Metcalf was frightfully upset when I mentioned the police rung up. He really was, I saw his face.
Major Metcalf?
Middle-aged, soldier. I know he seems quite nice and perfectly normal. It might show, might it?
No, often it doesn't show at all.
So it's not just Christopher as a suspect. There's Major Metcalf as well.
Any other suggestions?
Paravicini did drop the fire poker when I mentioned the police rung up.
Paravicini.
I know he seems quite old and foreign and everything. He mightn't really be as old as he looks. He moves around like a much younger man, and he has definitely got makeup on his face. His case will notice it too.
You're very anxious, aren't you, that it shouldn't be young Mr. Wren?
He just seems so helpless somehow, and so unhappy.
Mrs. Ralston, let me tell you something. I've had all possibilities in mind ever since the beginning. The boy, Georgie, the father, and someone else. There was a sister, you remember.
The sister.
It might have been a woman who killed Mrs. Marine Lyon. A woman. The muffler pulled up and the man's felt hat pulled well down over it, and the killer whispered, you know, it's the voice that gives the sex away. Yes, it might have been a woman.
Miss Casewell.
She seemed a bit old for the part. Oh yes, Mrs. Ralston. There's a very wide field. There's yourself, for instance.
Me?
You're about the right age.
But
Oh, whatever you tell me, I've got no means of checking at this present moment, remember? And then, there's your husband.
Giles? Don't be ridiculous.
He and Christopher Wren are much of an age. Say, your husband looks older than his years, and Christopher Wren looks younger. Actual age is very hard to tell. How much do you know about your husband, Mrs. Ralston?
How much do I know about Giles? Don't be silly.
You've been married how long?
Just a year.
And you met him where?
At a dance in London. We went to a party.
Did you meet his people?
He hasn't got any people. They're all dead.
They're all dead.
But you make it sound all wrong. His father was a barrister and his mother died when he was a baby.
You're only telling me what he told you.
Yes.
You don't know it of your own knowledge.
It's
You'd be
outrageous.
You'd be surprised, Mrs. Ralston, with how many cases rather like yours we get. Especially since the war. Homes broken up and families dead. Fellow says he's been in the Air Force or just finished his army training. Parents killed, no relations. There aren't any backgrounds nowadays, and young people settle their own affairs. They meet and marry. It's young people and relatives used to make the inquiries before consenting to an engagement. That's all done away with. Girl just marries her man. Sometimes she doesn't find out for a year or two that he's an absconding bank clerk, an army deserter, or something else equally undesirable. How long had you known Giles Ralston when you married him?
Just 3 weeks.
You're only
but
telling me what he told you.
I tell you, I know exactly the sort of person that Giles is. And it's absolutely ridiculous for you to suggest that he's some sort of crazy homicidal maniac. Why, he wasn't even in London yesterday when the murder was committed.
Where was he? Here?
He had to go cross country for some chicken netting.
Bring it back with him?
Turned out to be the wrong kind.
Only 30 miles from London, aren't you? Oh, you got ABC. Yesterday's. Sold on the streets about 3:30 afternoon. About an hour by train, a little longer by car. Mrs. Ralston, this your husband's coat?
Yes.
Evening News. Yesterday's. Sold on the streets about 3:30 afternoon.
I don't believe it.
Don't you? Don't you?
Molly!
Oh, you
Where's
startled
he
me.
gone? Where is he?
Who?
Sergeant?
He went out that way.
I wish he could get away. Somehow, some way. Is there any place I could hide in the house?
Hide?
Yes, from him.
Why?
But darling, they're all so frightfully against me. They're going to say I committed these murders. Particularly your husband.
Never mind him. Listen, Chris, you can't go on running away from things all your life.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's true, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite true.
You've got to grow up sometime, Chris.
I wish I hadn't.
Your name isn't really Christopher Wren, is it?
No.
And you're not really training to be an architect?
No.
Well then, why did
Call
you...
myself Christopher Wren. Just amused me. And they used to call me Little Christopher Robin at school. So Robin Wren, Association of Ideas. It was hell of a at school.
What's your real name?
We needn't go into that. I ran away whilst I was doing my army service. It was all so beastly, I hated it. Yes, I know, I'm just like the unknown murderer. I told you I'm the one the specification fitted. You see, my mother,
Yes, your mother.
if she hadn't died, everything would have been alright. She would have gone on looking after me.
You can't go on being looked after all your life, Chris. Things happen to you and you've got to bear them. You've got to go on just as usual.
One can't do that.
Yes, one can.
You mean you had?
Yes.
What was it? Something terribly awful.
Something I've never forgotten.
Was it to do with Giles?
No, it was long before I met Giles.
He must have been very young, barely more than a child.
Perhaps that's why it was so terrible. It was awful. I try never to think of it.
So you two are running away from things instead of facing them.
Perhaps in a way I am. Considering I never saw you until yesterday afternoon, we seem to know each other rather well.
Yes, it's funny, isn't it?
I don't know, I suppose there's a sort of sympathy between us.
Anyway, you think I should stick it out?
Well, frankly, what else can you do?
Could pinch the sergeant's skis. I can see quite well.
That would be frightfully stupid, almost like admitting you're guilty.
But everyone thinks I'm guilty. Your husband thinks I'm guilty. The sergeant thinks I'm guilty.
I'm sure the sergeant doesn't think, but I don't know what the sergeant thinks. I hate him. I hate him.
Who?
The sergeant. I don't believe it. I won't believe
What
it.
won't you believe? Come on, out with it.
See this?
Yes.
What is it? Yesterday's paper. A London paper. It was in Giles's overcoat pocket. But Giles wasn't in London yesterday.
Well, he was here all day.
But he wasn't. He had to go cross country for some netting for our chickens.
Well, then he probably didn't go up to London after all.
Then why not tell me he did? Why pretend he'd been racing all around the country?
Perhaps with news of this murder.
He didn't know about the murder. Or did he? Did he?
Good Lord, Molly. Surely you don't think the sergeant doesn't think.
I don't know what the sergeant thinks. And he can make you think things about people. You begin to ask yourself questions and you begin to doubt. Think that somebody you love and know well might be a stranger. That's what happens at a nightmare. Somewhere in the middle of friends and suddenly you look around at their faces. They're not your friends anymore. They're different people just pretending. Perhaps you can't trust anybody. Perhaps everyone's a stranger.
I seem to be interrupting something.
No! We were just talking. I'd best get up to the kitchen.
I'll come give you a hand.
No, you won't.
Giles,
Tete-a-tetes aren't very healthy things at present. You keep away from the kitchen.
Now
You
here.
keep away from my
What's
wife.
all this?
You keep away from my wife, Ren. She's not going to be the next victim.
So that's what you think of me.
I've already said it, haven't I? There's a killer loose in this house, and it seems to me that you fit the bill.
I'm not the only one who fits the bill.
I don't see who else does.
Are you really so blind, or do you only pretend to be blind?
I tell you, I'm worrying about my wife's safety.
So am I. I'm not going to leave you in here alone with her.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Christopher, please go.
I'm not going anywhere.
Please, Christopher, I mean it.
I shan't be far away.
What is all this, Molly? You must be crazy. Perfectly willing to lock yourself up in the kitchen with a homicidal maniac.
He isn't.
You've only got to look at him to see he's barmy.
He's not. He's just unhappy. He's not dangerous. I tell you, I'd know if he was dangerous. And besides, I can look after myself.
That's what Mrs. Boyle said.
Giles, don't.
Look here, what is there between you and that wretched boy?
What do you mean by between us? I'm sorry for him, that's all.
Perhaps you had met him before. Perhaps you suggested to him to come here, and that you both pretend to meet for the first time. All cooked up between you, was it?
Giles, have you got out of your mind? How dare you suggest these things?
Rather odd, isn't it, that he should come and stay in an out-of-the-way place like this?
No more odd than that Major Metcalf or Miss Casewell or Mrs. Boyle should.
I read once in a paper that these homicidal cases were able to attract women. Looks as though it were true. Where did you first know him? How long has this been going on?
What do you mean? I never set eyes on Christopher Wren until he arrived here yesterday.
That's what you say. Perhaps you've been running up to London to meet him on the sly.
You know perfectly well I have not been up to London for weeks.
You haven't been up to London for weeks. Is that so?
What do you mean? It's quite true.
Is it? What's this? This is one of the gloves you were wearing yesterday. You dropped it. I picked it up this afternoon when we were talking to Sergeant Trotter. You see what's inside of it? A London bus ticket.
That,
So it seems you didn't only go to the village yesterday. You went to London as well.
All right, I went.
Whilst I was safely away racing around the countryside.
Whilst you were racing round the countryside.
Come on now, admit it. You went to London.
All right, I went to London. So did you.
What?
Yesterday's evening paper.
Where did you get hold of this?
It was in your overcoat pocket.
Anyone could have put it in there.
Did they? No, you were in London.
All right, yes, I was in London. I didn't go to meet a woman there.
Didn't you? Are you sure you didn't?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Go away.
What's the matter?
Don't come near me.
Did you go to London yesterday to meet Christopher Wren?
Don't be silly. Of course I didn't.
Then why did you go?
I shan't tell you that now. Perhaps now I've forgotten why I went.
What is all this, Molly? You're different all of a sudden. I feel as though I don't know you anymore.
Perhaps you never really did know me. We've been married how long? A year? You don't really know what I'd done or thought or felt or suffered before you knew me.
Molly, you're crazy.
All right then, I'm crazy. Why not? Perhaps it's fun to be crazy.
What the hell are you doing?
Now, I do hope you young people aren't saying a bit more than you both mean. One is so apt to in these lovers' quarrels.
Lovers' quarrels, that's good.
Quite so, quite so. And I've been all through this all myself when I was a younger man. Finesse, as the poet says. Not been married long, I imagine.
It's no business of yours, Mr. Paravicini.
No business at all. I just came to say that the sergeant cannot find his keys, and I'm afraid he's very annoyed.
Christopher.
What's that?
He is wondering if you have by any chance moved them, Mr. Ralston.
No, of course not.
Mr. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston, have you moved my pair of skis in the cupboard back there where we put them?
Certainly not.
Somebody's taken them.
What made you happen to look for them?
The snow is still lying. I need help here, reinforcements. I was going to ski over to the police station in Markhampton to report on the situation.
And now you can't. Dear. Somebody has seen to it that you certainly shan't do that. Yet, there may be another reason.
Yes? What?
Somebody may want to get away.
What did you mean when you said Christopher just now?
Nothing.
So our young architect has helped it. Interesting.
Is this true, Mrs. Ralston?
Oh, there you are. Thank goodness you haven't gone.
Did you take my skis, Mr. Wren?
No, why should I?
Mrs. Ralston seems to think.
Mr. Wren is very fond of skiing. I thought he may have taken them to get some exercise.
Now listen, you people, this is a serious matter. Somebody has removed my only chance of communication with the outside world. I want everyone assembled here again.
I believe Miss Casewell has gone upstairs.
I'll get her.
I left Major Metcalf in the dining room. Major Metcalf! He's not in there right now.
I'll try and find him.
Hello, wanting me?
It's a question of my skis.
Skis.
Mr. Ralston!
Did either of you two move my pair of skis from the cupboard near the kitchen door?
Good heavens, no, why should I?
Nevertheless, they are gone. Which way did you go to your room?
By the back stairs.
Did you pass the cupboard door?
If you say so, I have no idea where your skis are.
You were actually in that cupboard today.
Yes, I was.
At the time Mrs. Boyle was killed.
The time Mrs. Boyle was killed, I'd gone down to the cellar.
Were the skis in the cupboard when you passed through?
I believed I did.
Didn't you see them there?
Can't remember.
You must remember if those skis were there then.
Don't remember any damn skis. All I was thinking about was the cellars. The architecture of the place is very interesting. I opened the door and I went on down, so I can't tell you whether your skis were there or not.
You realize that you yourself had an excellent opportunity to have taken them?
Yes, I grant you that. If I wanted to, that is.
The question is, where are they now?
We should be able to find them if we all set to. It's not a case of hunt the thimble. Lucky great thing, skis. If we all set to.
Not quite so fast, Major Metcalf. But maybe you know what we are meant to do.
I don't get you.
I'm in the position now where I've got to put myself in the place of a crazy cunning brain. I've got to ask myself what he wants us to do and what he himself is planning to do next. I've got to keep just one step ahead of him, because if I don't, there's going to be another death.
You still don't believe that?
Yes, Miss Casewell, I do. 3 blind mice. 2 mice cancelled out. A 3rd mouse still to be dealt with. There are 6 of you here listening to me. One of you is a killer. One of you is a killer. I don't know which yet, but I shall. And another of you is the killer's prospective victim. That's the person I'm speaking to. Mrs. Boyle held out on me. Mrs. Boyle is dead. You, whoever you are, holding out on me. Well, don't, because you're in danger. Nobody who's killed twice is going to hesitate to kill a third time. And as it is, I don't know which one of you it is who needs protection. Oh, come now. Anyone here who has anything, however slight, to reproach themselves for in that bygone business, had better come out with it. All right, you won't. I'll get the killer. I have no doubt of that. But it may be too late for one of you. And I'll tell you another thing. The killer's enjoying this. Yes, he's enjoying himself a good deal. All right, you can go.
Speaking of chicken, have you ever tried chicken's liver served on toast, thickly smeared with foie gras, with just a rasher of bacon and a Susan and mustard? Come with me to the kitchen, and we will see what we can concoct together. A charming occupation.
I'm helping my wife, Parvacini.
Your husband is afraid for you. Quite natural under the circumstances. It is my sadistic tendencies he fears, not my dishonorable ones. Alas, what an inconvenience the husband always is. I would dare doubt.
I'm sure Giles doesn't think that...
Your husband is very wise. Take no chance. What can I do to prove to you, or to him, or to our dog sergeant that I am not a cold-blooded murderer? So hard to prove a negative. And yet, suppose that I am.
Oh, don't.
But such a gay little tune. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Snick, 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 delicious. Just what a child would adore. Cruel little things, children. Some of them never grow up.
Stop frightening my wife at once.
I am sorry, it's silly of me. But you see, I found her. Her face was all purple. I can't forget it.
I know. It is difficult to forget. You are not forgetting kind.
I must go out to the kitchen. Please, Giles.
What did you say to the lady to upset her, sir?
Me? Oh, just a little innocent joke. I've always been fond of a little fun.
There's nice fun and there's fun that's not so nice.
Now I do wonder what you mean by that, Sergeant.
I've been doing a little wondering about you, sir. I've been wondering about that car of yours, how it happened to overturn in the snowdrift so conveniently.
You mean inconveniently, don't you, Sergeant?
That rather depends on the way you were looking at it. Just where were you bound for, by the way, when you had this accident?
Oh, a friend's house.
In this neighborhood?
Not so very far from here.
What was the name and address of this friend?
Now really, Sergeant Trotter, what does that have to do with this predicament?
We always like the fullest information. What did you say your friend's name was?
I didn't say.
No, you didn't say, and it seems you're not going to say. Now that's very interesting.
But there may be so many reasons. And honor, discretion. These jealous husbands.
Rather old to be running around with the ladies at your time of life, aren't you, sir?
My dear Inspector, I may not be quite as old as you think.
That's just what I've been thinking, sir.
What?
That you might not be as old as you try to look. There's a lot of people trying to look younger than they are. But when someone goes about trying to look older, it does make one ask oneself why.
Having asked questions of so many people, you ask questions of yourself? Isn't that overdoing things?
I might get an answer for myself. I don't get many from you.
Well, try again. That is, you have any more questions to ask?
One or two. Where were you coming from last night?
That is easy. From London.
What address in London?
I always stay at the Ritz Hotel.
What's your permanent address?
I dislike permanency.
What's your business or profession?
I play the markets.
Stockbroker?
No, you misunderstand me.
Enjoying this little game, aren't you, sir? Sure of yourself, too. But I shouldn't be too sure. You're mixed up in a murder case, and don't you forget it. Murder isn't just fun and games.
Not even this one. Oh, dear me. You're very serious. I always thought police would have no sense of humor. Is the Inquisition over for the moment?
For the moment, yes.
Then I shall go to the drawing room, see if anyone has hidden your skis at the grand piano.
Just a moment, please.
Were you speaking to me?
You may remember some of the questions I was asking Mrs. Parvacini.
I heard them.
Won't you come and sit down?
What do you want?
I'd like to have a little information from you.
Well, what do you want to know?
Full name, please.
Leslie Margaret Catherine Casewell?
Catherine.
I spell it with a K.
Quite so. Address?
Villa Mariposa, Pindor, Majorca.
That's in Italy.
It's an island, a Spanish island.
And your address in England?
Care of Morgan's Bank, Leaden Hall Street.
No other English address?
No.
How long have you been in England?
A week.
What brought you to Monkshire Manor, Miss Casewell?
I wanted somewhere quiet in the country
How long did you or do you propose to remain here?
until I finish what I came here to do.
And what was that? And what was that? What was it you came here to do?
I beg your pardon, I was thinking of something else.
You haven't answered my question.
I really don't see, why I should. It's a matter that concerns me alone. A strictly private affair.
All the same, Miss Casewell.
No, I don't think we'll argue about it.
Would you mind telling me your age?
Not in the least. It's on my passport. I'm 24.
24.
You were thinking I looked older.
Is there anyone in this country who can vouch for you?
My bank will reassure you as to my financial position. I can also refer to you as a solicitor. I'm not in a position to offer you social reference. I've lived most of my life abroad.
In Majorca?
In New York and other places.
Were you born abroad?
I left England when I was 13.
You know, Miss Casewell, I can't quite figure you out.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know. What are you doing here?
Seems to worry you.
It does worry me. You say you went abroad when you were 13?
12, 13, thereabouts.
Was your name Casewell then?
It's my name now.
What was your name then? Come on, tell me.
What are you trying to prove?
I want to know what your name was when you left England.
It's a long time ago. I've forgotten.
There are things one doesn't forget.
Possibly.
Unhappiness, despair.
I dare say.
What's your real name?
I told you, Leslie Margaret Catherine Casewell.
Catherine. What the devil are you doing here?
Wish I'd never come here. How is that the police weren't allowed to give people the 3rd degree?
I've merely been interrogating Miss Casewell.
You seem to have upset her. What did he do to you? Nothing. It's nothing. It's just all this murder. It just came over me suddenly. I'll go up to my room.
It's impossible. I can't believe it.
What? 6 impossible things before breakfast, break the bed clean.
Yes, something rather like that. I've seen something I ought to have seen before. Blind as a bat I've been, but I think now I might be able to get somewhere.
The police have a clue.
Yes, Mr. Wren. At last the police have a clue. I want everyone assembled here again. Do you know where they are?
Mr. Ralston and Molly are in the kitchen. I've been helping Major Metcalf to look for your skis. We've looked in all the most entertaining places, but to no avail. Don't know where Parvicini is.
I'll get him. You get the others. Sparvicini. Sparvicini. Sparvicini!
Yes, Sergeant? Little policeman has lost his skis and doesn't know where to find them. Leave them alone. They'll come home dragging a murderer behind them.
What's all this?
Sit down, Major, Mrs. Ralston.
Must I come now? It's very inconvenient.
There are more important things than meals, Mrs. Ralston. Mrs. Boyle, for instance, won't want another meal.
That's a rather harsh way to put things, Major.
I'm sorry, but I want cooperation. I intend to get it. Mr. Ralston, will you go and get Miss Casewell? She went up to her room. Tell her it will only be for a few minutes.
Have your skis been found, Sergeant?
No, but I may have a very shrewd suspicion of who took them and why they were taken. I won't say any more at the present moment.
Please don't. I always think explanations should be kept to the end. That exciting last chapter, you know.
This isn't a game, sir.
Now there, I think you are wrong. I think this is a game. Somebody.
You think the murderer is enjoying himself. Maybe. Maybe.
What is happening?
Sit down, Major. Mrs. Casewell. Will you all pay attention, please? You may remember that after the murder of Mrs. Boyle, I took statements from you all. Those statements related to your positions at the time the murder was committed. Those statements were as follows. Mrs. Ralston in the kitchen preparing vegetables. Miss Casewell in the library. Mr. Ralston upstairs. Mr. Wren upstairs. Miss Parvicini in the drawing room. Major Metcalf in the cellar.
Correct.
Those were the statements you all made. I had no means of checking those statements. They may be true and they may not. To put it quite clearly, 5 of those statements are true, but one is false. Which one? 5 of you are telling the truth, but one of you is lying. I have a plan that may help me discover the liar, and if I discover that one of you lied to me, then I will know who the murderer is.
Not necessarily. Someone may have lied for some other reason.
I rather doubt that.
What's the idea? You just said you had no means of checking these statements.
No, but supposing everyone was to go through these actions a second time.
That old chestnut. Reconstruction of the crime.
That's a foreign idea.
Not a reconstruction of the crime, Mr. Parvicini. A reconstruction of the movements of apparently innocent persons.
And what is the purpose of that?
You will forgive me if I don't make that clear just at the moment.
You want a repeat performance.
The same actions will be performed, yes.
It's a trap.
What do you mean it's a trap?
It is a trap, I know it is.
I only want people to do exactly as they did before.
Really, I don't see, I simply can't see what you possibly hope to accomplish by having us repeat our actions.
Well, you can count me out. I'm too busy in the kitchen.
Hold on, Mrs. Ralston. I can't count anybody out. One might almost think that you're all guilty by the looks of you. Why are you so unwilling?
Of course, whatever you say goes, Sergeant. We'll all cooperate, eh, Molly?
Very well.
Wren. Parvicini.
Oh yes.
Miss Casewell.
Yes.
Metcalf.
Yes.
Are we all to do exactly what we did before?
Same actions will be performed, yes.
In that case, I shall go to the drawing room and pick out the signature tune of the murderer. One figure.
Not quite so fast, Mr. Parvicini. Do you play the piano, Mrs. Ralston?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the tune of Three Blind Mice?
Don't we all know it?
Then you could pick it out on the piano, just as Mr. Parvicini did. Good. Go sit at the piano and begin to play when I give you the signal.
I don't understand. I thought we were all supposed to repeat our former actions.
The same actions will be performed, yes, but not necessarily by the same people.
I don't see the point.
There is a point. It is a means of checking up on the statements, and maybe one statement in particular. Now, will you all pay attention, please? I will assign each of you your new stations. Mr. Wren, will you go into the kitchen? Keep an eye on Mrs. Ralston's dinner for her. You're very fond of cooking, I believe. Mr. Parvicini, go into Mr. Wren's room. By the back stairs is the most convenient way. Major Metcalf, go into Mr. Ralston's room to check the telephone wire, the extension wire. Miss Casewell, go into the cellar. Mr. Wren will show you the way. Unfortunately, I need someone to reproduce my own actions. I am sorry to ask it of you, Mr. Ralston, but would you go out the window to check the telephone wire and ground it near the front door? Rather a chilly job, but you're probably the toughest person here.
And what are you going to do?
I'm enacting the part of Mrs. Boyle.
Taking a bit of a risk, aren't you?
You will all stay in your places and remain there until I give you the signal.
Parlor games.
No objection to my wearing a coat.
I should advise it, sir. Take my torch, sir. It's in my coat pocket. Mrs. Ralston, count to 20 and begin to play. Mrs. Ralston,
Yes, what is it? You're looking very pleased with yourself. You got what you wanted.
I wrote exactly what I wanted.
You know who the murderer is.
Yes, I know.
Which of them?
You ought to know, Mrs. Ralston.
I.
You've been very foolish, you know. You've run a very good chance of being killed by someone. And as a result, you've been in serious danger more than once.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Ralston. We policemen aren't quite so dumb as you think. All along, I've realized that you had first-hand knowledge of the Longridge Farm affair. You knew Mrs. Boyle was the magistrate concerned. In fact, you knew all about it. Why didn't you speak up and say so?
I don't understand. I wanted to forget.
Your maiden name was Waring?
Yes.
Miss Waring, you taught school. In the school where those children went.
Yes.
Isn't it true that Jimmy, the child who died, managed to get a letter posted to you?
Yes.
The letter begged for help. Help from his kind young teacher. You never answered that letter.
I couldn't. I never got it.
You just didn't bother.
That's not true. I was ill. I went down with pneumonia that very day. The letter was put aside with a lot of other letters, and by the time I read it, it was too late. Poor child was dead. Dead. Waiting for me to do something. Hoping. Gradually losing hope. It's haunted me ever since. If only I hadn't been ill, if only I'd known. It's monstrous that such things should be allowed to happen.
Yes, it's monstrous.
I thought the police didn't carry revolvers.
The police don't. I'm not a policeman, Mrs. Ralston. You thought I was a policeman because I ran up from the call box and said I was speaking from the police headquarters and the Sergeant Trotter was on his way. I cut the telephone wire when I came in through the front door. Do you know who I am, Mrs. Ralston? I'm Georgie. I'm Jimmy's brother. Georgie. You better not scream, Mrs. Ralston, because if you do, I shall fire this revolver. I'd like to talk to you a little. I said I'd like to talk to you a little. Jimmy died. That nasty, cruel woman killed him. They put her in prison. But prison wasn't bad enough for her. I said I'd kill her one day. And I did too. In the fog. It was great fun. I hope Jimmy knows. I'll kill them all when I've grown up. That's what I said to myself. Because grown-ups can do anything they like.
You'll never get away safely, you know.
Someone's hidden my skis. I can't find them. But it doesn't matter. I don't really mind if I get away or not. It's all been such fun, watching you all and pretending to be a policeman.
That revolver will make a lot of noise.
It will rather. Much better to do it the usual way and to take you by the neck. The last little mouse in the trap.
Georgie! Georgie! You know me, don't you? Don't you remember the farm, Georgie? And the animals? And the fat old pig? And the day the bull chased us across the field? And the dogs?
Dogs?
Yes, Spot and Plain.
Kathy?
Yes, you remember me now, don't you?
Kathy, is it you?
Yes, I came to England to find you. I didn't notice you until you twiddled your fingers the way that you always used to do. Yes, you always did it, Georgie. Georgie, come with me. You're coming with me. I'm taking you to a place where they will look after you and see that you won't do any more harm.
Ralston! Ralston!
Molly! Molly, are you all right?
Oh, Giles.
Whoever would have dreamt it was Trotter?
He's mad, quite mad.
Yes, but you...
I was caught up in it all. It wasn't my fault. I was a teacher at their school. I thought I could have saved that poor child.
You should have told me.
I wanted to forget it all.
Everything's under control now. Everything will be alright. He'll be under soon with a sedative. His sister's looking after him. Poor fellow's as mad as I ever was, but I've had my suspicions of him all along.
Didn't you believe he was a policeman?
No, I didn't. You see, Mrs. Ralston, I'm a policeman. saw that it was vital to have someone on the spot. When put to him, Major Metcalf agreed to let me take his place. Well, it started to thaw soon. Help should be here. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Ralston, I'll remove the skis now. Hit them atop the four poster.
And I thought it was Paravaccini.
I shouldn't be surprised if they found 1,000 or so Swiss watches in a spare wheel. Yes, that's his line of business. Nasty bit of goods. Molly, I believe you thought.
Giles, what were you doing in London yesterday?
What, darling, I was buying you an anniversary present. We could marry just a year today.
That's what I was doing in London. I didn't want you to know.
No.
They're cigars. I do hope they're all right.
Oh, darling, how sweet of you. They're
You will-
splendid.
You will smoke them.
I'll smoke them.
Where's my present?
Oh, I forgot all about your present. It's a hat.
A hat? But I practically never wear one.
Just for best.
Thank you, darling. It's splendid.
Put it on.
Later, when my hair's done properly.
It is all right, isn't it? The girl in the shop said it was the last thing in hats.
Mrs. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston. So there's a terrible smell of burning coming from the kitchen.
Oh, my pie.
Thank you for coming. Who had Trotter? Pretty good, pretty good. Don't tell